It's my favorite. Thank you, Julia. Thank you very much. Our scripture this morning is from the book of Psalms, chapter 144, verse 15. And I read, "Happy the people to whom such blessings fall. Happy the people whose God is the Lord." Thus ends the reading of the scripture. Now, what this scripture is actually telling us is that God is our true source of not only happiness, but strength, hope, and wisdom. Now, remember, as metaphysicians, we do not believe in God as personified. God is not a person, but rather we define God as infinite intelligence, the source or the spirit within each one of us. So when we read that God is the true source of happiness, what we are really saying is that the God within is our true source of happiness. A few weeks ago, I was participating in a webinar, and two facts were shared that I found both interesting and somewhat surprising. The speaker started off by saying that the average income in the United States has tripled in the last 40 years. Tripled. Now that sounded like a lot, but then I thought about it, and then I started to question it. So I did a little research, and I found that the average income in upper income households has actually increased by 78%. In middle income households, it's increased by 60%. And in lower income households, it's actually increased by 55%. Now, for those of you that may have been in the workforce 40 years ago, do you remember how much you were making then? How does that compare to what you're earning today, or you would be earning if you had not retired? I know for me, my first full-time job out of school, a little more like 50 than 40 years ago, but I was paid the whopping salary of $4,000 a year. That's right, $77 a week, which equated to $2 an hour. Now, at the time, I was living in Maryland, and the minimum wage in Maryland was $1.60, so I thought I was doing pretty good. By comparison, the federal minimum wage today is $7.25, and the minimum wage in Virginia, some of you may know, is $12.41. So times have changed. Maybe still not enough, but they have changed. It's actually the second part of the speaker's talk that really caught my attention. She said that despite earning so much more in income, the majority of people in the last 40 years, happiness has severely declined with them. We are not as happy or satisfied as we were back then. So perhaps the old adage is true, money can't buy happiness. But seriously, could this really be accurate? Don't we have so many more reasons today to be happy? Think about all that we have. What about the cell phone in your pocket or in your purse? It's much more than just talking on a phone. Computers, maybe we had computers back then, but not with all the bells and whistles that we have today. What about social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter that we spend so much time on? What about streaming services like Netflix? I can remember when there were 3 channels on the TV in the living room that we got to watch, and that was it. We have fitness trackers to measure our heart rate and track our steps every day. We never had those kind of opportunities for instant communication or entertainment before. What about GPS? Back then, GPS was only used by the military. It wasn't available for personal use. And now today we have it on our cell phones and in our cars. How many of you rely on GPS? I know I do. And then there's Amazon's Alexa. She only came to us 20 years ago. How did we ever live without her? Much less many other important things like clothes dryers, disposable diapers, online banking, ATMs, pre-made sandwiches and salads and rotisserie chicken in the grocery store. None of these were available 40 years ago. How do we live with all the things that today are such an integral part of our everyday lives? Don't all these conveniences make us happier people? So I did a little more research on this, and the results showed that while happiness is subjective and difficult to measure, there is in fact a perception that people are not as happy today as they were 40 years ago. Now, I think this perception is likely influenced by several factors, such as increased social comparison and pressure. The rise of social media has changed platforms for constant comparison with others' seemingly perfect lives, which leads to feelings of inadequacy and lower self-esteem. Social media and reality TV often present an idealized version of reality, making it difficult for people to meet their own expectations, which then leads to disappointment. There are changing social structures. Studies suggest that people are less likely to know their neighbors or participate in community groups, leading to feelings of isolation and loneliness. A decline in social connections and increased reliance on technology for communication can contribute to feelings of loneliness and disconnection. There's stress and mental health. Modern life is often characterized by a fast-paced, demanding lifestyle that can lead to increased stress and burnout. And while increased awareness of mental health issues is positive, it also means that more people are aware of their struggles and may report lower levels of happiness. My research suggested that rates of depression and anxiety may actually be higher in younger generations, potentially contribute to their overall unhappiness. There's something called the Easterlin paradox that I was not familiar with, maybe some of you are, but it suggests that while increased income can improve happiness up to a certain point, it doesn't necessarily lead to sustained happiness as income levels rise, particularly in wealthy communities. Some argue that a focus on material wealth and possessions can distract from other important aspects of happiness, like social connections and personal fulfillment. And then I think probably most of all is rose-colored glasses. You know what I mean by that? I think it's important to consider that people may romanticize about the past, remembering positive experiences while forgetting the challenges and hardships of previous generations. Negative events from the past are less likely to be recorded in our minds or remembered than positive ones. Now, while it's true that there are many challenges in our modern society, it's important to remember that happiness is not only a complex, but a personal experience. There's no one-size-fits-all answer to why people might not be as happy today as they were in the past. However, it's definitely a perceived fact that people are not as happy today. And as we know, perception is reality. Remember, our thoughts create our reality. So I'd like to ask you, why? Why do you think people are not as happy today as they were 40 years ago? What about you personally? Have you ever taken the time to think about what makes you happy? Or maybe why you're not as happy as you once were, or as happy as you want to be? What is it that's standing in your way? You know, we always have excuses. Well, I'm too busy at work. I need to spend time taking care of my family. I don't have time to think about myself. I'll think about it later when everyone else is taken care of. Are you all guilty of that? I know I am. Well, I'd like to suggest that that later become now. I'm asking you to think about what you can do starting today, right now, to make yourself happy, or perhaps happier than you currently are. What is it that's important to you? What are you going to do with this one precious life that you have? What's holding you back? If you have ever sat and had a conversation with someone nearing the end of their life, they would share comments with you like, I wish I had the courage to live the life I desired instead of what was expected of me. I wish I'd enjoyed life more instead of worrying about everything all the time, most of which never even happened. I had a lot to be thankful for back then, but I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. I wish I could have been more happy. Funny thing about happiness is that it's different for each person. What makes you happy is likely not the same as what makes your partner happy or your child happy or your coworker happy or the person sitting next to you happy. It's different for each person, and only you know what that is. I'd like to share some quotes on happiness by people whose names might be familiar to you. Henry David Thoreau said, "Happiness is like a butterfly. The more you chase it, the more it will elude you. But if you turn your attention to other things, it will come and sit softly on your shoulder. You must live in the present. Launch yourself on every wave. Find your eternity in each moment." The Dalai Lama said, "I believe that the purpose of life is to be happy. From the moment of birth, every human being wants happiness and does not want suffering. Neither social conditioning nor education nor ideology affect this. From the very core of our being, we simply desire contentment." The Buddha said, "All mental phenomena have mind as their forerunner. They have mind as their chief. They are mind-made. If one speaks or acts with pure intentions, happiness will follow, like a shadow that never leaves one's side." Socrates believed that the key to happiness was self-knowledge, which can only be found when a person searches for the objective truth. Instead of focusing on others, Socrates said, you have to focus on yourself. Question what you already know. Plato felt that human happiness depends on the pursuit of virtue and wisdom. He believed that true happiness could only be achieved through the cultivation of the soul and the realization of one's highest potential to get closer to the truth, and thus, he said, make yourself a better person. Albert Einstein said, "A calm and modest life brings more happiness than the pursuit of success combined with constant restlessness." Mother Teresa's quotes on life and happiness emphasize love, service, and finding joy in simple acts. She believed that happiness stemmed from loving and serving others, and that even small acts of kindness could have a profound effect. She was once quoted as saying, "Be happy in the moment, that's enough. Each moment is all we need, not more." This quote obviously emphasized the importance of living in the present and finding joy in each moment. A famous quote by Abraham Lincoln that holds so much truth: "Most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be." And let's not forget the words of Thomas Jefferson and our founding fathers, as stated in the Declaration of Independence, which we read in the invitatory. "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Happiness is a right. Remember that. We have a right to be happy. Now, in my sermon today, I can only give you things to think about and share some thoughts on happiness from well-known figures and other spiritual leaders. But I can't tell you where or how to find your own happiness. But what I can tell you is this: it comes from within. All the happiness you will ever experience in your lifetime comes from you and only you. Other people don't make you happy. They can share in your happiness, and you can share in theirs. But at the end of the day, it's all up to you. And I'd like to remind you of our fourth Declaration of Principles, which is found on the back of your bulletin. We believe in personal responsibility and that we create our own happiness or unhappiness as we live in harmony or discord with natural, physical, and spiritual laws. We believe in and we create our own happiness. We must remember this. Happiness does not come from anyone or anything else. It comes from within. My wish for you today is that you enjoy the life that you're living, this time that you have here on earth, and think about what it is that makes you happy, and then do just that today. Not tomorrow or next week or next year, but today. Focus on and plan for your own happiness. As shown on the cover of your bulletin, there are so many beautiful reasons to be happy, and may it be so.